Good. All right, the first question I want to ask you is, how old were you when the war began?
You know, that's a question I don't feel like telling you the truth. But remember, I think I was 8 or 9 years old at the time. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember exactly where you were when the bombing began?
Where, uh, when before the bombing began, we were living in Quezon City. But my father, and I was, as I said, I was around 8 or 9 years old. My father, working with the government, like the FBI, NBI that time, it was Department of Investigation that time. He knew when the Americans were coming, when the Japanese was coming. He knew everything. He knew, so I knew it. Me being the eldest, he would talk to me and say, "Iha, I want you, whatever happens to me, I want you to take care of your brothers and sisters." He brought me up that way, up to the minute my father and my mother died. I have that at the back of my head to take care of my brothers and sisters.
So since he knew what was happening, um, let me ask that question again. Wait, I'm going to make one adjustment, all right? And then we'll pick it up right there. Okay. Since he knew. Since your father knew what was happening with the war and telling you about this, what were your thoughts? Were you afraid or were you brave? What were you thinking?
No, I didn't know what was it all about. Because this is going to be the first war, I didn't know what war was until I experienced it. You have to experience to know what it is all about. And I experienced it when the bombings came, you know, the bombing started, you know. Everybody would just as what your mother said, everybody was running from their foxhole, and we didn't have any foxhole at the time. We had to change places, the places we live, we had to change places because my father was an American, was wanted by the Japanese. My father knew that was going to happen. That's the most important thing on my part. My father knew what was going to happen, and he was prepared. So those time, you know, that's it. We planted, and that's it. Well, you heard all about it, about how we were being treated by the Japanese and how we were growing up and where we get our food and everything. But the
So,
most...
Oh, go ahead. Your father, your family was in Quezon City, your mother and father, you're the eldest of how many kids?
Oh, we were three.
Three.
Three all then, okay. We were all three then.
So your mother was planting vegetables and
Yeah,
trying to do that to keep
yeah,
you alive.
yes, yes. And I would even do the cooking at that age. I would do we didn't have water. There was no water. And we had balloon. We dig a hole, a balloon, and then I remember I would do the washing of the clothes of my family by hand. I would have to go up there at night when there's no more bombing and everything, and then I would even feel I'm washing at night, then there would be bombing, and then I have to go back in the foxhole. Okay, and that's the part when during the Japanese, then there was school.
I wanted to know about school.
Okay.
You were already 9 years old.
Yeah.
Which here in the United States is about fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Were you were obviously in school already?
Yeah, well, I think I don't even remember what grade I was. All I know that's I was in school, and they had to stop. The Japanese came already, okay? I'm talking about the Japanese coming in already, okay? They had to stop English. There was no English in any newspaper, no radio English, and no school, no English in school. We were all taught Japanese. And that's the reason why I know ichi, ni, san, shigo, and watashi wa anata wa shibaso, and bakairo. That is, the word bakairo from the Japanese was just like F you or damn you or whatever. It was a curse to them, bakairo. Yeah, that's how I grew up. And then when the Japanese was there, I remember me growing up, my father said, Well, it was not only me, every lady that time had to cut their hair like, they have to look like men because we were being raped by the Japanese. Unfortunately, I have to say this. We were being raped by the Japanese. I've seen that with my own eyes. I've seen them pull the girls' nails one by one, slash them on the stomach after raping them. And I still have a phobia about that, but
And you were a child.
I was a child when I experienced this. So,
It's so amazing how we try so hard to raise our children without hate, you know?
yeah.
And then to be 9 years old and to have to witness hate in a concentrated form.
Mhm.
It must have been hard throughout your life to
Accept,
even deal or accept or
Japanese.
eradicate that.
yeah. But well, you see, I was born a Christian. I was born in the Assumption convent. We were brought up to grow up, forgive, forget, and love thy neighbor as thyself.
Well, it must have been hard. When you were, well, during the occupation, I understand that your mother had a baby
Okay.
during this time.
During the time when we were still in Quezon City, my father was really, he had a radio at the back of his headboard, and I could hear him communicate with MacArthur with his, I don't know what called that, tick, 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 shortwave, whatever. And then I think he got instructions to get out of the house because to hide already. So my father and his whole family and my uncle, who was a doctor of Philippine General Hospital, invited us to stay in the Philippine General Hospital because my mom gave birth. Okay, so we were there in the basement of Philippine General Hospital. That is, we are talking about the heart of Manila, where really the bombing was really heavy. Bombing and killing and raping and everything. We didn't have food. Manila, we don't even have place to plant.
Because you're in the city.
Because you're in a city. No water, no food. So my mother gave birth. We were hiding all those time that she was on pregnancy with my mother in the basement of the Philippine General Hospital. My brother next to me had typhoid. We didn't have medicine. My uncle was a doctor. Yeah, but they don't have medicine. Even if you're a doctorate of whatever, you don't have medicine, So my brother was going to die. And we didn't have food to give him, nothing. To my mom also was going to give birth. So I cannot forget the incident when my father said, Iha, I think if the Americans come and your brother doesn't get well, we will have to bury him because he was going to die. I cannot forget the incident that my dad, had to dig a hole to bury my brother.
But your brother didn't end up dying, did he?
No, thanks to the Americans, they came. Thanks to the Americans, they came. They invaded the Philippine General Hospital ward by ward, ward by ward. And I was a little girl and I could see them coming in. And another thing, we didn't have food, right? My mother was dehydrated. She got dehydrated, no food. My sister was born, she didn't have milk. So what I would do at night is go up in the second floor, maternity ward. I had a breast pump with me and a bottle. Have you ever heard of begging milk? I was begging milk from every mother to fill up a bottle to feed my little sister. So you can just imagine, I thought that was so long before the Americans came, and I was doing that for how many months. So you can just imagine what a little girl felt when she saw the Americans coming. I was so happy. I was so relieved. Uh, but still after that, the Philippines had a hard time. We went back to Quezon City. Uh, my dad would ask me to go to the U.S. military. All right, we were in the military. They had a U.S. military camp in Quezon City already when we went back. My father would ask me, go there to the military camp, Iha, and ask them for some food. So I would ask food from the Americans, and they would give me the bones of the pork, chicken bones, and I cannot forget that because my dad and I would boil that and just put cabbage and rice, and that was food for the family. That's why I'm so grateful for the Americans, and I'm so happy I'm here. One thing that I cannot also forget and wonder was that after all these sufferings and sacrifices, my family, my uncles, my father, my grandfather, why did my father renounce his citizenship?
He renounced his citizenship?
Yeah. I believe he was so hurt when the Americans used to invite him in Pentagon. He was invited in Pentagon, was invited by the FBI, was trained by the Chicago police, New York police, and the FBI, my father. I don't know that what happened when he was here, that when he came back, he went to the U.S. Embassy, renounced his citizenship.
Which was his citizenship from
Which
birth?
was his citizenship from birth. He was working with the National Bureau of Investigations at that time, Department of Investigation. They have a record of that in the U.S. Embassy.
Do you think there was maybe...
And the Americans, I believe, those people who worked with my dad, who's maybe still alive by now, maybe will understand why and what happened. But me being the eldest, up to now, I'm on my senior age already, I still wonder why he did this. We had to file for, my sister had to petition for my mother, and my mother had to petition for us. Because when he renounced his citizenship, all went to the water, our being a natural-born American citizens.
Oh, so by him renouncing his citizenship...
Automatically the
trickled down to you.
And that made me wonder up to this minute. After all his sacrifices for the Americans, for the Japanese, sacrifices, you know.
Was this after the war?
This was after the war already.
And he had come here, so maybe there was some sort of conflict. Or
Yeah, I don't know. He was working with Colonel Bernard Anderson, and Colonel Napoleon Valeriano. I think he's in Washington up to now. I think he's still alive. I don't know. But if he's still alive, he knows why, because he even stayed in my house, in our house in Quezon City.
So when you, during this time, during this occupation, you were 9. It ended about when you were 12, almost 13.
Mm-hmm.
You had 2 brothers.
2 brothers.
And then now a sister.
No, I had just one brother, and 1 sister.
Oh, I see. And the sister is the one that was born
During the
Philippine
during the.
You seem to have been, because of being the oldest, the food gatherer for your family.
Oh yeah.
Everything from the milk for your sister to food at the American camps.
And a laundry woman.
And the laundry woman. What was going through your mind as what we would envision as a 4th or 5th grade child, who really here in the States and in this day and age is either playing video games or baseball? You know, what were you thinking as a child as you are gathering food for your sisters and brothers and doing the laundry and taking care of these things? Did you already feel the hardness of life already?
Yes, I felt the hardness, and I developed self-pity. I felt so sorry for my family that we had to beg for food. We have to beg for my brothers and sisters. I have to beg for milk. And I had a hard time. It took me a long time to feel that what I am right now. I'm free and I am Lilian Bond.
That's great.
Uh-huh.
I know it's, I know for a lot of us who have immigrated here after living in the Philippines for a little while, we appreciate having American citizenship,
Yeah.
and knowing it.
Mhm.
But now our children, your grandchildren, who are raised here in America where everything's fine and perfect and we have plumbing and
Mhm.
water,
Mhm.
and you know, their biggest problem is, you know, the computer doesn't work. It amazes me how can we prepare these kids that we have now that are completely unprepared to survive like you have survived? How can we even prepare these kids for what might be World War III?
Well, as I can see the future now, because I work in a school district, you, especially here now, you have everything. They will never be prepared. They are not prepared because you have everything. You have everything, just a click of your finger. You have everything. Not like us who grew up hardship. Nowadays, I don't think these kids are ready. I don't think they're going to be ready. They never experience anything. They have everything. How can you expect them to do what we have done or I have done?
When at their age, they've never, the most they've seen is probably an animal die. At your age, you saw humans being tortured. At your age, you were 10.
Mm-hmm.
When you were witnessing these torturous events, were you afraid for your life? When you saw something like that happening, did you not run? What were you thinking?
No, you know why? Because at that age, you know, when you're a young girl, you're curious, right? I was always curious. What's this I see? What's this I see? What's happening? I was always curious. What's this I see? Why is this happening? Why is this like this? That was how I grew up.
So you weren't afraid to see what was happening?
I would, at a young age, maybe because of the way I've seen it, I would kill a pig at the age of 12, 11 years by myself. I could kill a pig.
Yeah, that's not something a 12-year-old
A
can do.
12-year-old person now can do, not even kill a chicken.
Actually, they'd probably be arrested if they did that.
Yeah. Well, see, that's how I was.
We've almost evolved ourselves into such a
I would kill it.
pampered state
Mm-hmm.
that we can't really survive.
mhm.
It seems as though. The other question I wanted to ask you was, your brother and younger sister, they were younger than you were. Were there things you were telling them, or were you kind of, because you were the oldest, in a way mothering them while your mother was probably preoccupied with how she was going to keep her family alive?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Well, I tried my very best to act like a mother and elder sister to my brothers and sisters, but it's hard. Some of them will accept it, some of them don't. Maybe because they are younger. We say they belong to the younger generation now.
But the two siblings you had during the war, one was a baby, and then your brother Junior was, if you were 9, maybe
He must be 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
He had typhoid.
After his typhoid fever, when he started to get better, and you were obviously still taking care of the kids, was he asking you questions about what was happening?
No.
Was
No.
there discussion between you kids?
No,
about,
no.
Did
They
you,
didn't know anything what was actually happening. I don't think so because they never asked me.
oh, okay, we're going to change shape. It's like if we were in Concord, you were taking care of your, what I want to know is, basically, it'll be a quick answer. Let me see how I should word it so that you can talk about it. were you taking care of your younger brother and sister during the occupation? What were you doing?
Yeah, you asked that already.
I know I want to start it again though, so I want
Oh.
you to answer me again.
Okay.
Siblings, did they ask you any questions about what was happening? Did you have to explain anything to them? Oh, it is rolling? Okay. So those three things, did you take care of them? Did they ask you questions? Did you have to explain anything about the war to them?
No. I just told them stories, but they never asked me. I just told them stories of what happened those times. And hey, I told my sister, Marianne, you know that when you were young, I did this for you and this and this and that. That's all. But they never asked. I really wonder why.
But even at the time when they were little and this was happening,
Maybe because they were so little, they didn't know what was going on, so they have no questions to ask.
it was just like
Yeah,
normal.
it's just one of those things that happen. They don't know.
And what about your mom? Did your mom share anything with you?
Yeah, well, my mom was very young that time. She was pampered by my dad, by her family too. She was spoiled. And I was brought up by my dad, really strict and take care of my brothers and sisters. I remember the time when I would even misbehave, that my father would beat me up like hell. And this time, you don't do that. You get sued. You see, I did a lot of comparison during my time and this time, especially that I work in a school. I said, my goodness, I said, if you were born during my time, you would beat the hell out of you of parents.
It's true. And that's
Yeah.
true in a lot of cultures.
Well, that's it. My father, my brothers and sisters didn't ask me any question because they didn't know what was really happening. I was the ones telling them stories like that.
And what signs of hope as a child and during that occupation, while your dad was being hidden and going away and coming back, what signs of hope did you hold on to?
Hope.
I guess you mentioned that he had a shortwave radio,
Mm-hmm.
something you used to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what he was doing with that?
All I know is that he was talking to the Americans because I could hear. I could hear the click, 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 and I know the difference between the radio. What do you call that? Radio transmitter,
Morse, yeah, the
whatever. I
transmitter.
don't know what. All I know is that.
Did you feel that the war was going to end and that it was going to be a good ending?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I knew. I knew. I knew. I knew right away. I knew the difference. In fact, right after, when the Americans came. And one thing I'd like to share. When the Americans came, I have a lot of questions which is in my mind, and I think I'd like to share this now. Our house were being used as a safe house by some Americans who would come to the Philippines. I remember my dad would say, so and so, Mr. Jackson or Johnson or David or what, would be coming in town, so he will move us out. Her whole family will stay in Parañaque. I really don't know I really don't know. And I wish somebody could help me because I don't know what happened to my dad. He renounced his citizenship. He committed suicide. So, can you imagine me, a young girl, up to this time, I still wonder why, what happened.
When did he commit suicide?
My dad committed suicide 1955. He was the director of the National Bureau of the National Bureau of Investigation. He was the chief question documents at that time. And he handled the police. This is not the war anymore, honey. Do you still want me to continue?
Well,
No.
this was 10 years after the war.
Yeah.
During the war, because was he considered an informant?
Yeah,
For the...
Definitely, he was.
And was he, okay, right when the Japanese invaded, was your father already working with the U.S. government?
Yes.
He
Yeah.
was.
He was. The Americans even gave him to manage the War Damage Commission in the Philippines, Manila. There was a War Damage Commission office, and my mom operated the restaurant there, or the cafeteria for the personnel. So the Americans were also grateful to my father. But I just don't know what happened when he came here.
Because he was such an ally,
Yeah,
and then he must have been disgruntled with Congress.
yeah.
Um, okay, there was one more question I wanted to ask you about when, okay, you talked about on the last tape, oh, you talked about the Americans taking over the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
They took it over ward by ward.
Mm-hmm.
Where you guys were in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you actually know or feel that the Americans were either in the hospital or coming? Did you know they were coming before they came?
Yeah. I just don't know where my father, but my father was getting all this information. We knew they were he knew they were coming because he was preparing us. As I told you, he even told us, what are we going to do with your brother? The Americans are coming. If he doesn't get well, if he dies, we just have to bury him. That's why he and I dig a hole for my brother, to bury my brother.
Now, once the Americans came, you were still in Philippine General Hospital in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
Then what happened after that? How did you get out of Philippine General Hospital?
Well, okay, the Americans took us, okay, I remember that we rode in one big truck, and then we were brought, all the Filipinos and all the patients in the Philippine General Hospital was brought in this, there was a cabaret, a dancing hall, Santa Ana Cabaret. All of us were there, all the Filipinos that were taken by the Americans in the Philippine General Hospital were taken in the Santa Ana Cabaret.
And
then later on, they took our places where we were going to stay, where we were going, and then, we told them we were going to Rizal, Parañaque, and, they brought a group by group.
So they
group by group.
escorted you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We were brought by the Americans themselves, too, in a truck to Parañaque, wherever they were. The others, too.
That
We
must
were
have
escorted.
been-
It was nice. I cannot forget the feeling. I cannot forget the feeling because I experienced the hardships. So you can just imagine how I felt when I saw them. It was heaven for me.
That's excellent. It seems like, for my generation, I'm sure, for these guys too, the feeling I can find even closest to that was when Marcos was overthrown. And when
Yeah.
I saw it on TV, and I
Uh-huh.
was glued to the TV.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, gosh, that's probably this big compared to the feeling you guys had when the Americans came.
Mm.
What a savior.
Yeah. My only,
Go ahead.
can I share this,
Yes, yes.
Misty? I want to share this to all the Filipino Americans who came to the United States. I always go home to the Philippines. I know how hard their life is. How hard. It's really hard. No, very poor in medicine and everything. Up to now, we're still the third world country. If only the Filipino Americans who are here learn to love and thank and respect the United States of America, and do not take the United States, don't take America for granted. That's all I can tell them, because you don't only know without them where could we have been without them. That's all, young kids. Don't take America for granted. Be thankful you are here.
Oh, that's a great closing statement. Oh, good. He's got a good close-up on you. Man, you're so good. Oh, that was good. You did really well. I cry with both of you guys. I think you're
Okay.
going to be really pleased with the edited version.
All my frustrations of life came out.
Okay, how do you
Ah!
Okay din niya ako. Ay, si Willie, galit pa hanggang ngayon. He's always mad. Platinum blonde hair.
So this must have been